Hello, I'm Rochelle J, and I love beads. Big beads, little beads, shiny beads, matte beads, and especially TOHO Demi Round Beads. They're a unique bead that TOHO makes that is similar to your normal round beads, the same hole size, the same diameter, only they're cut in half so they're half as tall, so closer to spacer beads. So everything you do with them turns out a little bit more delicate, just a little different, all your traditional stitches. So today we're going to do a variation of right angle weave using all three sizes of the TOHO Demi beads, the 11/0, 8/0, and 6/0 beads. And so join me today. All you need is I use the TOHO On-G thread. It has a little bit of stretch and comes in 22 colors so that you can match your thread to your bead. And then I'm using a size 10 TOHO beading needle. It's a nice rigid beading needle. That way I can maintain proper tension, and the whole of the beads are so big, why go to a tiny little needle? So you take 5 feet of thread, put your needle on it, and I leave a nice long tail, something to hold on to there, and then you can either bead straight off your bobbin or leave yourself at least a nice 10-inch tail, something to hold on to and to use for your clasp. Then you're going to, this is a variation of right angle weave, so just add 4 beads to your thread, slide it all the way down, and then swoop around and pass through them all again. I pinch them with my fingers so that they're going to form a circle, and then we'll pass through just the first demi again, and they'll form an X. That way they're nice and taut, and you have a tail to hold on to. Your tail is right here, your working thread is right here. So what we're going to do is fill in the blank in between these sections of 6/0 demis. Some people have referred this stitch variation to X's and O's because you make an X first with the size 6s, then you'll take the smaller beads and go in a circle all the way around. So I want to control my thread, so I put it on my finger and then hold it between my first and second finger to maintain thread control. Then we're going to pick up an 11/0 demi, an 8/0 demi, and an 11/0 demi, and then we'll pass through the next 6/0 demi. And these 3 beads are going to nestle right into place so that the 11/0 is tucked underneath there, and then the 8/0 is pointing out in the center. And so we're going to add these 3 beads in between all 4 of those 6/0 demis. So pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0, and then pass through the next 6/0. Thread control is really important in this because the whole of the demi is so large that you are apt to splice your thread, and you don't want to do that. So I control my thread in between each one by wrapping it around my finger, and then I'm holding on to the initial tail thread to keep my piece from flipping over at the moment and controlling where I'm going. So we're going to then pass through the first 6/0 and go through the next beads right next to it. So the 11/0 and 8/0 that's right next to it, pass through them as well, and move through the next 6/0, and then pass through the next 3. So you exit after the little 11/0 in the set of 3 directly across from your tail thread. We are going to make a really fun bracelet out of repeating this same sequence over and over and over again to your desired length. And so that's what we're making. So let's make it happen. Once again, this is your first little square. So this is the first X and the first O. And now we are going to add the 4 6/0 demis, just like we did in the beginning, and then slide them all the way down to meet your thread. You are not going to be connecting a 6/0 demi to a 6/0 demi. We are going to be connecting these together by the 3 beads in between. So we need to pass through all these 4 again, just like we did in the beginning, to make that first X. If they don't form an X, just take your fingernail and move them around. There you go, now you have the X. So we're coming out of this side of those 3 beads. You now have your nice X. Then we want to pass through this side of these 3 beads because we're connecting each X together by the 3 in the center. So this is a reversible on both sides, completely the same, and I like to work on the right side so that I have control of my thread and I'm going the same direction. So flip over your piece and pass through the first 6/0 demi that you can counter right there. These 2 are going to frame around those 3 in the center. So just take your thread between your fingers to hold it out of your way. Pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, and 11/0 and pass through the next 6. Then just wrap it around your finger each time. That way it'll be out of your way and you won't flip it over in between. You won't catch your thread, and it works up quite fast because you're just repeating the same sequence. An 11/0, an 8/0, an 11/0, and then pass through the 6, and then you're only going to catch these 3 beads right in the middle. If you can't go that direction, don't worry about it. Turn it over so that you can get the right orientation that works for you. You want to make sure you don't miss any of these beads, and you want to make sure you don't catch the 6s. So you're just going through the 11/0, the 8/0, and the 11/0. And so if you catch your thread of your tail, you don't want to do that. So if you're working off your bobbin, make sure you have a nice short tail. See, so that it's nice and tight. Then we want to come out way up here. So we need to once again pass through the beads we've already added to go where we want to go in order to continue. So I usually pass through the little 11/0 right next to the 6 at the same time. And then I control my thread, pass through those 3, and now I'm ready for my next. And we just keep on going. So you're going to add your 4 again. And it is important to slide them all the way down and pass through them again. If all you did was now swoop into these, that way it's going to be too loose and it won't form a tight X in the center. So always repeat the same thing. Add the 4, pass through them again, and then connect with the 3 in the center. So you're going to work your way all the way down, and each bracelet length will turn out about the same because the size 6/0 demis are the same size. So you can just count how many and how long you want it, and each time they'll be the same. And so we're using the same color for the 6, it's the matte gold, and then I'm using the shiny gold for the highlight right in the center. If it was all shiny gold, it would probably be too monochromatic and you couldn't see the unique spacing between the beads. I've made some that are monochromatic and they look a lot like metal, but for teaching it's not very good. So we really like to see, and look how this gold pops out of the middle of the mat. And so they're a new 6/0 demi that came in the perma finish gold and silver, and they're really fun to work with. So we're going to go now to the very end of your bracelet. So you repeat the same over and over and over again till you get to the end. This one here, I decided to change a color right in the middle so that I would give a little pop. See how I said it's gold, shiny gold, and matte gold? So all I did was change the color once I got there. So instead of picking up the matte gold, I picked up the shiny gold and it had a little nice pop. So once you get to the very end, you can add a clasp quite easily. You can either connect your clasp right on the center of this little demi, the TOHO Demi. You can just stick a jump ring right onto there. Or if you wanted to, some of the clasps have the same orientation as the bead, and you can just do a right angle weave right off of that 6/0 demi. So come out of the middle 6/0 demi instead, right there. Come out of that middle little guy, and then my clasp has this infinity ring, and so all I'm going to do is right angle weave my clasp on. And so then I can add 1 11/0 or 8/0 demi, pass through the ring of my clasp, 1 8/0 demi, and then pass through my clasp. There we go. And now we just go around in a circle and around in a circle and around in a circle, and that way you have now just added your clasp. And it's a fun, easy bracelet to work up. The wide bands, we create the same way. First you'll create one band, and then instead of just connecting on the end, we're going to connect it on the side as well. And that way they're sewn together on the side. So remember how we moved all the way up to the end to connect our beads? We went all the way up to this end up here to keep going straight. Well, I don't want to go that direction. I want to work my way to the side and make it wider. And so you're going to do the exact same thing, only instead of working from this end, we'll work from the side. So add 4 6/0 beads, slide them down to the side you're working on. Wrap them around your finger. And then we're going to connect them with the 3 beads, just like we did before, to that one we're working on. So flip it over and add the 3 little beads in between each of these 4. So you'll add the 11/0, the 8/0, the 11/0, and pass through the next 6, the 11/0, 8/0, 11/0, pass through the next 6. And you're only going to do this on the 3 sides here because you've just added to this side, so you connect to these 3 right here, and then since you just came out of the 6, you pass through these 3 right there on that side. So now we're going to work our way up to here, and we're going to put our next one right there. So when I pass around, I usually go through the 6/0 and these little demis, but don't try to go through too many beads at one time because you're turning angles. So if it's only a couple beads at one time, don't worry about it. It's okay. You don't want to miss a bead and you don't want to splice your thread. So since we want to come out of this side and attach it next to here, we're going to come out of this 3rd one right here. And then once again, you add your 4 6/0s. So you're always going to do that no matter what. Add the 4 6/0s, and I just fold that out of my way to wrap it around my finger to then make sure I make them all. And then come on back here, guy. There you go. So since you came out of this side of the 11/0, you want to go back into this side. Even if it's loose, don't worry about that. As soon as you pull this taut right here, it will then, sorry if you catch your thread, I'm just going to get him out of the way. That's my extra tail thread. We don't need him for the moment. So I just passed him, so now he's nice and taut. So you're always going to go through the first 6/0 after you've connected to connect it. Now I already have these 3 on the side, so we just pass through those 3, pull it taut, and then pass through the next 6/0, which is right up here. So you didn't add them, you connected the two you already had. See, now this lays nice and tight. So then you'll add the 3 in between. A little 11, a little 8, and a little 11, pass through there. And then the same thing on this open side, so that you're either adding the 3 or you're using the 3 that were already there from the previous edition. So now we need to move up here in order to go the direction we want to go. So you're going to move through the 6, and then I usually move through the 3. So just make sure you're not connecting. Don't grab the 6 right now of the previous row. Just grab the one in the circle you're working on. So just work with one circle at a time, and then you connect by the 3. So we just repeat all the way down as many times as you like. And so it gets a little easier to maneuver the thicker it gets, because it's wider and easier to hold on to. But like I said, if you just deal with one little square at a time, then you're not going to get mixed up on where you're at. So if you come out of this side of the 3, go in the other side, always. It's just kind of a rule, and if it's not forming an X, just tweak it with your fingernail and you can do that. So you're going to change directions as you're going. The nature of right angle weave is you go in a circle to the right and then you go in a circle to the left, and so you'll be connecting either after you add or before. So see, I just added those 3. Now I'm coming to my side, so I'm going to connect to the 3 that are already there, and then go through the 6 that's below it, and then connect to the 3 that are down here, and go all the way around. So whichever side you want to add on to, you want to go this way, come out here. You want to go this way, come out here. There's no rhyme or reason. You could make it a star, you could make it a square. It's your design. Make it anything you want. And if you want to change your colors, you can change and make silvers, golds. If you like to have more transparency and a little bit of sparkle, or get yourself some depth with the black, they connect really easy to these multi-strand clasps. I just sewed it on with a couple of the little 11/0 demis on this one. So then you would just finish it the same way that you finished your other bracelets. Add your clasp on the end, and you could use a multi-strand clasp, or you could taper it down to the end, so then it just had one, and you clasp it, or you could make a button clasp, a snap clasp, any kind of thing you like. This one here has a magnet clasp, so it's really fun. And I even used a wire guardian on this one, because magnets really have a tendency to pull a lot more. And so I just came out of the 8, added a little demi, went through the wire guardian, added my magnet, and then went back through the wire guardian. And it's really easy to put on and off, but yet strong and sturdy. When you're using the TOHO thread, the wire guardians really help protect it with the magnets. And so this is the dark green, and the same matte gold and shiny gold. It's just with a different 6, and so it looks a lot different. So I thank you so much for playing with me. I can't wait to see what your creative spirit inspires you to make with all of these demis. There's 3 sizes of demi beads that TOHO makes, size 6/0, 11/0, and 8/0, and we stock them all here at Bobby Bead.
Visit us online at bobbybead.com. You can head over to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. At the bottom of every video, there is a Show More, and in here you'll find the links to all the products being used in our tutorials. Have a great day. See you soon.